charred bodies of 16 people, including 3 children, were found today in a remote region of the French Alps. They're all believed to be members of the Solar Temple cult. It's the second time in 14 months that members of the cult have perished. 53 members died in apparent murder-suicides in Switzerland and Quebec in October of last year. The CBC's Mimi Tompkins reports.
A French police helicopter spotted the charred bodies in a forest near Grenoble early this morning. 500 officers were involved in the manhunt. It began on Friday when cars were found in the forest belonging to cult members. The 16 burned bodies were discovered this morning a couple of kilometers from the parking lot. A French prosecutor says 3 children are among the dead. He says it's possible some of the victims were shot to death. Some weapons were found at the site. Their bodies were found lying in a star formation with their feet in the middle. Authorities say brush and trees stacked up around the clearing were likely used to light the bodies on fire. The same star formation was used in October 1994. The bodies of 48 members of the Doomsday Cult were found in burned-down buildings in a small town in Switzerland. 5 more bodies were found in a burned house in Quebec. Investigators say the cult was obsessed with death and considered it an illusion. Experts say cult leaders told their followers that fire would lead them to a new world on another planet. The 1994 deaths were thought to be timed astrologically.
On peut penser que le décès remonte à plusieurs jours.
Officials say this week's mass suicide could have happened on Thursday night. That's winter solstice, the longest night of the year. Mimi Tompkins, CBC News, Paris.
Crazy, crazy things happen. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you might be. This is going to be a pretty dark stream, so if you're not interested in seeing deep, dark, disturbing content, I suggest that you just watch another day. This is a continuing issue with what a lot of people view as disturbing content. That's what, therefore the name. So that's sort of how this goes. So what I've got going on is I'll be switching this over to Rumble after a period of time, not immediately, but it will end up going over to Rumble before too long, just because I know how disturbing this content can be, and I don't want to expose too many people to it, but enough that maybe they'll see it, they'll understand what kind of things these are all about. But I'll give you a warning before I bring up the really disturbing parts of it, so you can avoid a good portion of it. But if you've got kids around, earmuffs. For most of this one it's pretty dark. It's one of the darker ones that I've done. This one pales in comparison to Jim Jones. Maybe not on the amount of people that were duped and lost in this, but just the amount of damage that this group caused. So like I said, if you're not wanting disturbing things, then you just hold on, because it'll get darker. Got this off of Ranker. It was a pretty interesting story, and I thought it was one of the more disturbing aspects of this group. So the question comes, what do you get when you combine a survivalist obsession with evangelical Christian doctrine, New Age ideas based on the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and the Knights Templar, You get a creepy cult founded in 1984 may have seen its that may still have followers in existence. So what is the Order of the Solar Temple, as they so loftily call themselves? Founded by Joseph de Marbre and Luc Jouret, the Order of the Solar Temple is located in Switzerland, France, and Canada. They had several directives in creating a cult, but their basic goal was to reestablish the notions of authority and power they thought the world needed. They did some especially crazy things that included murder, rituals, wearing hoods, and of course, a mass suicide in 94 and 1997. And here are some of the more unsettling facts about this cult. Wow. Hey, Rose, how you doing? So this is going to be a disturbing one tonight. So just be aware. I'll be moving it over to Rumble before it gets into the really dark stuff, and might even show the documentary on this one. We'll see. Any staple of a remarkable cult is their defining en masse act on October 5th, 1994. 53 members of this particular cult in Switzerland and Canada were found dead, including its founder, Luc Jouret, and Joseph de Marbre. The defining characteristics of this mass suicide was fire, which is what brought authorities to the crime scenes. A burned farmhouse in Switzerland had held 23 bodies, and 25 more were burned down ski chalets in another part of Switzerland. The other 15 were found in Canada, where the cult leaders lived. Inner Circle members appeared to have used poison to die, while other members had bags over their heads and had been shot in the head. They wore white ceremonial robes and were arranged in a circle, feet together, facing a temple. Getting a new phone. Hey, Tweety, how's it going? That's fine. It's a dark one. Hey. The following year, another 16 bodies were found in the French Alps, also burned and similar in ritual to the first mass suicide. Among the casualties were 3 children, and in both instances, voluntary participation in the acts was questionable. Here's our boy. Among the many things that Giraud claimed in front of elite members of the cult was that in a previous life he was a member of the Knights Templar. He also told them that he was the third reincarnation of Jesus Christ, using the authority this gave him. Giraud would choose female members of the cult to engage with sexually before ceremonies. He claimed that they gave him the spiritual strength to do his holy duties. Oh yes, some of them still exist. They also held a Christ-like supper before their suicide. These Inner Circle members were very aware of the upcoming. Joseph de Marbre was in charge of the cult's rituals and ceremonies. He held prayers and guided members through meditation sessions in order to emphasize his importance in the cult and his own status as holy. He told members that his son was conceived through thymogamy, or marriage with the gods. He also stated that his daughter was conceived immaculately, like Mary's pregnancy with Jesus Christ. At least he didn't say the Holy Ghost came from. Well, he might have. You never know. What's up, Cool Frog? Cool vibes, cool vibes. Michael Hagen. Going on, Shizzy brother. There you go. Thank you, sir. 3 members of the cult were ruthlessly murdered for revealing their secrets. That's what every good cult needs, is some really good secrets. On September 30th, 1994, 3 members of the cult were found stabbed to death in Montreal, Quebec. One of the victims was a 3-month-old. Man, that's just rough. How's a 3-month-old supposed to rat somebody out? They were killed by 2 other members of the cult. Outwardly, Demambro told members that the Dutoit's new child was the Antichrist, a conclusion he came to out of his anger that the Dutoits had named their child the same name as one of Demambro's own godlike children, Emmanuel. Reports that Antonio had recently admitted to other cult members that he'd help install mechanisms in a lodge used for tricking members into thinking they were seeing miraculous things are also cited as motives. Model A Ford in a tank full of gas. Who does that? They believed they would be reborn on a planet circling the star. Among the cult's senior beliefs that life on Earth was ending. As a result, the group's goals were initially based around a survivalist behavior and doomsday prep. The members in Canada even started an organic farm that is still in operation. Members also stockpiled foods, weapons, and ammunition to prepare for the impending ecological disasters which they posted would be caused by volcanoes. Of course, this wasn't proving to be the most sustainable of messages in keeping members invested. With their credibility both internally and externally starting to waver, a new credo emerged. The new message emphasized that life on Earth was an illusion. Elders told members that their only hope lay in shedding their earthly bodies in order to be reborn on an unnamed planet orbiting the dog star Sirius. Sirius? Well, see what she looks like. Thus, their eventual fiery end, their membership. It came at a very steep price. They had to pay to move up in the organization. Sounds familiar. A detail conveniently benefited the cult's leaders. There were initiation fees, gifts were required to be given to leaders, and mandatory tuition. In exchange, members would let on the cult's secrets and promise salvation upon the return of the second coming of Christ, the Solar God King. Of course, not everyone was on board with the cult's duties. A few regular members left the cult once they realized their leaders, Jure and Demambro, were leading lavish lifestyles with the income from the members. Go figure. Glad you're doing this. I wanted to, but I don't know how to share screen. Only use your phone. Well, you're welcome. That's what I'm trying to do, is something that brings this kind of crap out to people. Well, that's going to happen regardless, right? What's the rush? Exactly. I'm your Huckleberry. Hello, beautifully. You're wonderful. Members could level up in the cult. Over 6 years, the Order of the Solar Temple gained over 400 members and delineated itself into a 3-part structure. The lowest, the Amada Club, which was designed for members who spread the cult's messages to new people. These ambassadors gave lectures all around the world, proselytizing the group's doctrine. The next level up, the Acadia Club, consisted of members who were allowed to know a bit more of the cult's secrets and were promised the reward of coming closer to a higher consciousness, one that had to be hand-selected to reach this level by an elder. The highest circle of the cult was called the International Knighthood Organization. Reaching this level involved secret initiation rituals, and its members had access to publications that others did not. No cult is complete without an inner circle. That's true. Got to have that inner circle. Without an inner circle, what good is a cult? Who's going to run the show? Come on. Erase comments so they say hello to me, please. Oh, they will say hello to you. They'll say hello to you. Leaders combined their previous cults to form their super cult. The Order of the Solar Temple was created whenever two different cults, one led by Luc Jouret and the other one by Joseph D. Mombro, combined. It was established in 1978 and built on ideas pilfered from the Knights Templar. Jouret's group was the Ark and was based on the New Age concepts he and de Mombro would later build on in the Order of the Solar Temple. The leader's own son was a skeptic. Sweetie, use your mod. Go nuts. Every successful institution has a hierarchy. It's in the form of a pyramid. Well, not if it's upside down. That would just be an upside down triangle, right? So de Mombro's son, Eli, I believe it's Eli, started to question the family organization the older he became. When news came out that visions presented to the members were actually holograms and special effects faked by Eli's father, he started to get vocal about his suspicion that things weren't on the level. Several people quit the cult in response, and Eli walked away from the family business. This was, of course, a huge blow to de Mombro's credibility in the plans for transition, aka the mass yeeting that came soon after. Eli's body was amongst those found in this mass suicide. However, either his defection was misreported, never allowed to take place, or that self-deleting was against his will, which would be considered a murder. There's nothing to remove. I don't get it. Yeah, see. I also have the Rumble link up there in the very top. The link is in the top. It's in there. It's pinned. I pinned the link to where it'll go on Rumble. A former physician used his medical credibility as a charismatic de Mombro may have had the brains of the operation, but he knew to grow his own Golden Way organization, he needed someone more charismatic than himself to represent. Jouret, a former physician, was the perfect candidate. In his new role, he gave presentations on a successful lecture circuit around Switzerland discussing rather innocuous subjects such as love and biology, and using his degree to give him credibility. The speeches would eventually steer towards more apocalyptic messages around the eventual self-destruction of the Earth through environmental disasters. Man, I cannot speak tonight. Yes, it would. Yeah, don't you worry about leaving there, Tweety. Don't worry about it. See? Got your back. Rose got you. Oh boy. This is another one for a different day. But what we're going to do, God bless, is we got you back. Don't worry. It's going to get pretty dark because I'm going to start pulling up this documentary. So I hope that you're prepared for this creepy crap. Just know. I don't know. Weird. Backwards show they have stepped. At least you blocked them. I'm not wanting them to continue complaining. Who are you blocking? We'll be blocking people on here. Unless they're being like really bad characters. I apologize if anybody's been blocked. I don't know if anybody's saying anything bad over here. Trying to hide 3 upset people. Cranky. Oh, I see. You're trying to hide from 3 upset people. They're cranky. Got you. You're not here. Foodie's not here. Oh, what's that? Last night you found out about the hierarchy of hell, all 72. Oof. Dark. But that's what this is all about. Here we go.
On October the 5th, 1994, 5 people were found dead in this house in Canada. 10 hours later in Switzerland, 25 bodies were discovered in a chalet in the small town of Salvan, and 23 more in a nearby village. In less than 24 hours, 53 people had died. Their remains set alight by identical incendiary devices.
Now, that's just pretty disturbing right there. You igniting yourself by incendiary devices. What is that supposed to mean? Road flares? I mean, what do they do? Like put a road flare up there and just pop the cap? I don't know. Seems a little drastic.
Among the dead, 8 children, several senior civil servants, and 2 millionaires.
Yeah, that's the 2 founders, the millionaires. They were the ones that actually went down in flames with the rest of the group. So whenever they self-deleted, they all self-deleted. I mean, how else would you explain something like this? This is some pretty dark right here.
But they had something else in common. All were members of a secretive sect, the Order of the Solar Temple.
Dum dum dum, Death of the Solar Temple. Brought to you by Crazies.
The day before the deaths, on the 4th of October 1994, Thierry Huguenot was told to drive to a chalet in the Swiss Alps and pick up an envelope of cash. After 14 years, he had left the order and was still owed money by one of its leaders, Joe DeMambro.
He told me, Thierry, come up. I have the money for you.
When he got there, something was strange. The chalet was locked and the shutters closed.
Well, that would be strange. So if you're told to come up to a chalet because you're owed money because you left what you assumed was a cult, I don't know. I think I would. I mean, unless it's a sizable amount of money, I think I'd be a little bit worried for my safety. But nobody said this guy was bright in the first place.
I felt bad, and something inside me said, go, go, go.
DeMambro met him outside.
Nice. Yeah. Been betrayed. We've been so terribly betrayed. That's right. It's amazing that he's so what he just said was something inside him told him to go, but of course DeMambro met him out there. Whew.
Outside and claimed he couldn't find his key. He called a locksmith to break in.
When the locksmith opened the door, I reeled back 3 meters because of the smell of petrol fumes. And then I went up the path very quickly. And his friend caught up with me and she tried to get me to come back, but I drove away.
Smart move. Come back. It's only a little bit of petrol fuel. We're all getting high right now off petrol fuel. No, No, run away. Don't do that shit. Bad, spooky crap.
Having escaped, Thierry left without his money and drove the 100 miles back to Geneva.
Yeah, I would be fine. French ski resorts are normally peaceful. Lived in France, ski resorts for a few months. You do like a little bit of that snow, don't you? Living in Colorado. You do like a little bit. That's okay. It's okay. We like Tweety. There you go. Look at that. Look at that. Hit the like button. Don't smash it. Share this out to social media and comment on the video. So you know of. No. Well, of course. So I might know. Might know.
Midnight, he heard of the deaths in Canada. By morning, images...
Wait, so he drove up to the Swiss Alps and then flew to Canada? Okay, that's weird.
Geneva. At midnight, he heard of the deaths in Canada. By morning, images of the burnt Swiss chalets flashed around the world. The chalet, which Thierry had visited, contained 25 bodies, including those of the order's leaders, Luc Jouret and Joseph de Mambro.
I'm surprised that the whole thing didn't burn down if it was filled with fuel. Apparently they aren't all peaceful. Apparently not.
He always said to us that when he would die, his body would be consumed by flames like that. It was amazing what happened in fact. His body didn't burn in the fire at all. That's why it was recognized. It's extraordinary when you think he always used to say fire was his element and fire would reclaim him.
And it didn't.
At the other chalet in Chiri, fire didn't completely destroy the building. Police were able to reconstruct where the victims had died.
Yes.
21 members were found shot in this garage, which had been converted into a chapel. Some had plastic bags over their heads.
So they're showing, they're laying out where everybody was at. And that's pretty dark right there. Wow. That's pretty rough. Looks like they've got a pedestal right in the middle. Just open fire. That's dark. But they look like they're all laying down peaceful.
In Salvin, one person was found shot. The rest had been poisoned and suffocated.
That's rough.
With so many dead, in so many different ways, it was one of the most baffling cases the Swiss police had ever faced.
What's so baffling about a bunch of people like mass deleting? I don't know why that would be baffling.
2 years later, just what happened and...
Man, they could have at least turned the water off. It's going to freeze, cause a problem. See, someone turned that on. They could have just turned that off. Just turn off the water. What a waste. What a waste of resources.
2 years later, just what happened and why is still a mystery. As part of their investigation, the Swiss police recruited a cult expert from Swiss military intelligence, Jean-François Mayer.
The hypothesis which we had at the beginning was that
hair, man, makes his forehead look 10 times as big as it is. It's like he's got like the Beavis hair right there.
most likely given the magnitude of the event, there should be some survivors involved in the actions. And we began really with that in mind. There must be some people who knew a lot, and we are going to find out about those people. We are going to locate those people. We are going to locate those people who maybe made some profit of the tragedy and so on.
I don't know. I'm trying to make a profit off of this tragedy. There you go. No, I don't know anything about this group.
The order was mystical and elitist.
Well, as all good cults should be, mystical, elitist. And they have to have nice outfits too.
They claimed to be the heirs of the medieval Knights Templar, Christian warriors who guarded the Holy Grail.
But where is the Holy Grail? Has anybody seen the Holy Grail?
They also believed in reincarnation.
Wow. But of course, in matching as well. Yes, but you have to have like nice little emblems on them, you know, to show your status. Like they can only be so matchy-matchy.
Obsessed with secrecy, they blurred their faces in this video they made. It shows the start of an initiation ceremony. The order attracted many successful upper-middle-class people, disillusioned with conventional churches, yet hungry for spiritual experiences. At its height, it boasted over 1,000 members in Canada, France, and Switzerland.
Well, just imagine that. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Like everybody wants this great religious experience. You know, some people remove body parts and some people add body parts, but it's a religious experience.
One of the leaders, Joe DeMambro, was a businessman.
Look, serial killer glasses. He's got serial killer glasses. He's got the square frames with the double bridge.
The other, Luc Jure, a doctor. At first, the police had little to go on, but then 4 bizarre letters turned up. Sent to the Swiss and French media, they claimed members had left the Earth on a so-called transit to the star Sirius.
Serious? No, serious. Well, we're serious. Serious? No, seriously. Was it serious or seriously? Well, serious.
Copies were also
Seriously.
sent to Jean-Francois Meyer.
The letters, the testaments, seemed to confirm the hypothesis of a suicide. And don't forget that on the first evening, the public declarations by the investigators were going rather into the direction that it might have most likely been a suicide.
2 days later, a 5th letter appeared. Unsigned like the others, it was addressed sarcastically to our very dear Charlie. This was Charles Pasqua, the then French Minister of the Interior. Although his office denied all knowledge of this letter, a draft of it was found on one of the computers in the wreckage at Salvan.
Huh. So they wrote a letter to this guy. Weird. Well, Prime Minister, we have done the nastiest thing we could possibly do. We will get out of your hair. We will leave this planet for Sirius. You will see us no more. It's all your fault.
It complained bitterly that everywhere we worked, the police and other authorities intimidated and threatened us, keeping us under constant surveillance.
Well, I wonder why. Wouldn't you? Imagine that. Imagine being harassed by police because, well, you might be doing some really weird, shady stuff. They're just trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Creepy.
Police intimidation increased, and the harassment went beyond what could be endured.
It's all your fault.
The mystery deepened when rumors started that the cult's leader, Luc Jouret, had not been killed and his badly burned body had been wrongly identified. These rumors were so persistent that the chief pathologist was forced to re-examine the evidence.
We had made an identification first on the basis of dental records, and we were sure. And so we stopped our investigations. But then, for reasons I would call political, precisely in order to be able to answer questions, we decided to do a second identification on the basis of DNA testing. We suggested that to the judge, and he agreed. And that test led to precisely the result we expected, an identification of 99.99% certainty.
That's pretty close. Unless it was his son.
With Jouret proved dead, the Swiss authorities concentrated on collective suicide. But not everyone was so certain. In France, a working detective, Roger Facon, began to voice doubts. The author of a number of books on cults, including one on the order itself, Facon pointed out a series of inconsistencies. The specially adapted gun used in the killings was found.
That is pretty special. Looks like a 1911 with some weird kind of suppression device strapped to it.
Outside the chalet in Salvan with no fingerprints. Its owner, Joel Egger, had flown to Geneva from Montreal just before the bodies were found in Canada.
Gotta have some bridges. Man, new phones are slick as nails without a cover. Glad most have wrenches. I'd just delete everyone by accident. Yeah, I would do the same.
A police contact told Facon the gun could only fire one bullet at a time. The Swiss police claimed all 65 bullets came from the gun.
Wow. Imagine 65 people, 65 shots, one round at a time. So every single one of these people knew what was coming. That's some dedication right there.
65 balles tirées.
Unless. It's an interesting thought.
65 bullets, all shot from the one gun. If you think of the number of people in the chalet, 25 of them who are running around, and the fact...
So fast, need to be managing why this slow speeding down. It's not fast. This chat is moving very slow. Oh, you're funny, Rose. I love it.
that the gun has to be loaded each time. If you think of the agitation given what's going on, I estimate that it's about 45 seconds to find each bullet, to look, to pause, to load it, to take aim, to fire. You have to allow 45 seconds for each bullet. So it would have taken 60 minutes or so.
Wow. An hour. Just imagine that. An hour. Rough.
It's over an hour to fire all the bullets. It's just not possible.
Impossible.
It was a magic bullet.
Families of victims were also concerned. Rosemary Jaton lost her brother, her sister-in-law, and 2 nephews at Chiri.
For 18 months, the journalists and the judges have said it was collective suicide. For my part, personally, I always thought that it was more likely to be a murder, because we had no idea our family might be implicated in anything like that.
Well, thank you, Rose.
And in July 1995, Mr. Pillar, the investigating magistrate, said that our relatives were killed with 3, 5, 7, and 9 bullets, all of them lethal.
Wow.
Now, you can't kill yourself by putting 9 bullets in your head.
Why not? Come on, you put the first one in, you reload, put the next one in, you reload, you put the next one in. Come on. Jeez. Science.
This wasn't the only inconsistency in the investigation. This was the scene at Salvan a year after the deaths.
So a year later, this is what it looked like. They still hadn't cleaned it up. Wow.
Standard police practice is to seal the scene of a crime and to remove everything for forensic examination.
That's a lot of crap to remove. Well, maybe they removed everything that was pertinent to it. I don't know. I wasn't there. Obviously. I would agree with this, sweetie. That is a very true statement. They're very, very, very hard to escape because there's no amount of convincing that something is amiss or something is wrong with an ideology. Because people, not all people, but a lot of people do lack critical thinking, or because they're so ingrained in a particular thought that they don't use the critical thinking in a good way. I mean, that's probably pretty much why I'm a hermit most of the time, except for my wife and I. I just don't like the excessive groupthink. I have my own thoughts, and they don't always agree with everybody.
Yet the place was littered with charred remains. Some were poignant. Some were reminders of how many children died. But others could be significant evidence.
Could they be significant evidence? Come on, this was what, 1994? How significant could that evidence be? Hermit. Hello. Well, I'm not a quitter either. And it's the I think one of the best descriptions of this. And think about this in making a bad investment. Say, for example, you bought, you spent your whole life savings on a stock because you thought that this stock was just gonna take off and it was going to do great, and it starts losing, and it keeps dropping, and it keeps dropping, and you keep saying, I'm just going to buy more, and you keep buying more because you think eventually that stock's going to go back up. The stock never goes up. It actually zeroes out. The company goes bankrupt. It becomes completely worthless, and you lost everything because you couldn't count your losses. Some people do not like to be wrong. The cult is looking out for your best interests. Yes. And it's over a period of time too. It's over a long period of time, sometimes a short period of time for some people. That's why they're easily convinced that it's a good thing. And one of the reasons that I stopped playing music whenever I did, I mean, I still play, I just don't pursue it on the level I did when I was much younger, because at some point you just sort of have to count your losses and go, I'm not spending more money on this to, I still love doing it, but I can't dedicate all my time to it. So, there's that.
but others could be significant evidence. Had anyone checked the memory of this electronic typewriter? Or sifted through the many files?
The memory of the electronic typewriter. I mean, they could look at the ribbon. If it had a ribbon in there, you could have probably pulled it out and see what was typed, but what good does it do? I mean, that's just like saying, did anybody check for fingerprints on this table? It's just stupid.
Files, tapes, and documents still lying around. We had one of the video cassettes examined and found it a surprising contrast to the cult's professed beliefs. It contained a pornographic Canadian movie.
A pornographic Canadian movie. And there's the videotape. Look, we found this videotape. Let's put it up. It's Canada porn. Oh my gosh. What is that moose doing?
But it wasn't just the Swiss who might have slipped up. It was the same story in Canada, where 5 people had died. To the amazement of one researcher, anyone could get access to the ruins.
No problem, though.
Il y avait beaucoup de jouets d'enfants. Ça a été assez un choc.
I found toys, papers, manuscripts lying around. There was a lot of debris scattered about. There were also many documents.
Yeah, it seems really weird that they wouldn't pick up the documents.
I was astonished because I thought the police would have taken absolutely everything away for analysis, if only to find the slightest clue, including any psychological clue as to what.
Well, I don't know if they were looking for a psychological clue. I mean, Bill Gates Jr. here, dude. That sweater, I mean, this must have been made around Christmas because that is one hell of an ugly sweater. I like it. I want one. I want a sweater like this. It's so ugly. That's good. Canada porn.
Why it had happened, and the mindset of the organization.
To relatives like Mrs. Jaton, from the start, the investigation seemed flawed.
I phoned as soon as I heard there had been a massacre at Sherry because I knew my brother went to the organic farm at Sherry.
Daniel Jaton lived here with other members of the order. Although the house might have held vital evidence, police were slow to seal it off.
They only put seals on the place on the 13th of October, so for 8 days anyone could have taken material evidence or tampered with the evidence.
Or added evidence.
It wasn't the only delay in the investigation. The Swiss police took 10 weeks to contact one of the French treasurers of the order. She had close links with the cult's leaders and is now too frightened to be identified.
The police were very obvious. They were quite determined to demonstrate it was a matter of a guru and a sect. They asked me if there had been special effects, if I'd been asked to sleep with other members. It was a matter of showing it was a sect.
So here's where we get into the sex cult thing, where you asked to sleep with other members. What does that have to do with a bunch of people killing themselves? I'm just saying. Yeah, there are. It's not hard. I've started one with Flux. It's called Flux Nuts. It's the cult of the Flux Nuts. It's an awesome cult. Lots of sex, drugs, rock and roll, and art. You got to have art. I mean, if you're going to do a cult, you have to have art, right? Like valuable art, because we're awesome.
I thought their questions were very narrow. If I said things that did not fit the focus of their investigation, the Swiss police didn't write it down. They said, no, we're not interested in that.
When the press questioned the thoroughness of the Swiss investigation, the authorities rejected all criticism.
As you do. Don't criticize us. We're the media. We know what we're talking about. I like their little table. They got wine glasses. They're turned upside down. I mean, you would think that they would at least give him some water, and maybe this guy would get rid of his Beavis haircut.
Alors, est-ce à vous de me poser des questions ou est-ce
I
à
want to
moi?
know, should you be asking me questions or should I be asking you questions? I don't want to avoid the question.
Well, that's a bad way to start. But we have some really nice outfits. Cult of Boomers, yeah, but it got some really nice outfits. Everybody's welcome. Really, they are. They're totally welcome.
I will answer the question. I have told you what the police did on the spot there. You say that the police did not do its work properly. I assure you, the police did do its work. An inquiry has to take place at once, immediately after the event. And I have proved it. All the people was seen. All that was useful was taken away.
Well, there you go. So the Canada porn wasn't useful in the investigation. Just saying, if the Canada porn wasn't useful in the investigation, you got to take everything else away.
The police might have been satisfied, but Thierry Huguenin, the ex-cult member, was far from happy.
Whoa, imagine not. He didn't get paid. Fuck, I wouldn't be happy either.
He was sure there was about to be another mass killing. He told the Swiss police, but they did little about his warnings.
We had the feeling at the time that 3 or 4 rather older members who were obviously quite nostalgic might commit suicide, but on an individual basis. I have to be very frank, we doubted very much that a group would commit suicide.
4 months after...
Yeah, see, it didn't end with just this group. This group in the Swiss chalet. That wasn't the only group that did this. There's a lot more. It goes on and on. And they still think there might still be members out there. And this is as early as late as 2021. They believe that there's still some more of these members out there.
After Thierry's warning, on December the 22nd, 1995, another 16 members of the order were found dead. They were killed in the Vercors, an isolated region of France. All the bodies had been burned and laid out in star formation.
Now, if that ain't creepy, miles away, more members did the exact same thing. Hundreds of miles away, if not thousands.
The second set of deaths of Vercors has come, of course, as a shock to all the investigators.
So did their identities. 2 of the dead were French policemen whose car had been seen near the scene of the earlier massacres.
Whoa. So that's a little weird.
Dead were French policemen whose car had been seen near the scene of the earlier massacres. They'd even been interrogated at the time. Another victim was equally unexpected, the man who had mailed the 5 so-called suicide letters. After this killing, no letters were received.
End of part 1. Now to part 2. Yes, it is a freaky cult. It is an absolute freaky cult. And it gets weirder. It gets very much weirder. Mm-hmm.
In trying to unravel why 69 men, women, and children died, experts have studied the philosophy of the Order of the Solar Temple. Members built chapels like this one to hold...
That's a pretty little temple.
...hold their most private rituals. The cult was obsessed with secrecy, codes, and symbols. Novices had to pass a series of initiations before they could attend ceremonies. The first step was to be robed in a cape.
Step 1. You must be robed in a cape. Step 2. You must disrobe without removing the cape.
One initiate was a Canadian insurance salesman, Herman Delorme.
Well, I guess that was a good insurance payment. Just saying, probably pretty good insurance payment on the first group. Not so good on the second group if you were, involved in the second group. Damn. Harsh.
And you would go through this ritual where you would be given a cross. You would be sworn in as a member. And you would also swear not to reveal any of the going-ons inside this this group, because everything was kept extremely secretive. There was always...
Oh, that's right. Today's Tug's birthday. Just make sure you wish him a happy birthday. Today is Tug's birthday. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
It's what we'd call a guard at the door to make sure that when the time of the ritual actually it was time to start, nobody would interfere. Nobody would come in.
Both leaders, Dimambro and Jure, were skilled manipulators who understood their followers' craving for spiritual secrets.
Well, not just spiritual secrets. We're celebrating his birthday. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely.
Recruits were often told they were reincarnations of famous religious and historical figures.
I love that. I love that. That is awesome. If you can tell somebody, no, you weren't Napoleon, he was. You were the reincarnation of Joan of Arc. But I'm a dude. Doesn't matter. You're a reincarnation of Joan of Arc. Man, that would be... There's so many people that... You think about this. All of these people that I saw myself... I'm reincarnated from a previous life, and I was captain of a guard for Queen blah, blah, blah. And how many of those people, if reincarnation was possible, was just maybe like some bricklayer or something. Maybe they were a slave, like multiple times over the 500 years that they were building pyramids or whatever. That would really suck to be reincarnated. Is basically doing the same job over and over again. God, that would just suck. Nobody could ever enter or leave the realm. Exactly.
It was a strategy that attracted many outwardly successful individuals, such as Camille Pilet, a director of Piaget watches.
So get some high-powered people in that will fork over some money. You can do really good in your cult.
When
people like just imagine if you could, if Flux and I can get our little cult like really with a good following, and we could get like Bill Gates. I think we get Steve Jobs too. If we got Bill Gates, we get Steve Jobs because they'd want to outdo each other.
Dr. Jure realized the fortune that Pilet represented, he and Joe got together and they brought him into a sanctuary. They told him that he was the reincarnation of Joseph of Arimathea.
Oh my gosh. You're the reincarnation of Joseph Arimathea. But he can't be, because that's what I wanted to be. Damn it.
And the poor man was like this. And he was surrounded by Jure, Dimambro, and the bigwigs of the order. And then they awarded him all the capes in one go.
Oh my gosh, every single cape? He got all the capes in one go. I mean, it is like a cape fetish wet dream to get all the capes at once.
In theory, you had to go through a process of initiation and learning to earn each cape. Each cape had a particular meaning, but he got them all in one go.
One of those in your example is dead. No, come on. He'll still join. He'll be reincarnated. Come on. Get with the program. You're not paying any attention. How can you ever be a member of the cult if you don't pay any attention? You got cake. I don't need a cape. You can keep it. But if you get cool capes, you might be able to get like some really, really cool people in there. Gotta have cake and punch pie. Punch pie. Gotta get our punchy pie.
And he paid all his contributions in one go for a year.
Wow.
A curious mix of the Christian and the occult, the order's beliefs were jealously guarded. Only the inner circle were allowed to know the central doctrines, that there were 33...
Well, of course, John Jordan. Why wouldn't you have babes in a cult? Like hotties. Like I mean, how can you keep the procreation going if you don't have like a harem of like hotties around you? I mean, that's no fun. It's no fun. I mean, what good is it? What good is it?
3 spiritual entities or masters who were said to inhabit temples buried beneath Zurich and the Himalayas. The secrecy proved seductive.
You become disengaged and disconnected from everything that surrounds you. And there's only one key to your life's purpose or your life's objective, and that's in the solar temple. That's where it's at. That's where it's going on, and nothing else really matters.
Nothing really matters. This is funny. He's in here doing his kung fu. It's gonna be cool. Watch. He's a martial artist.
That's where it's going on, and nothing else really matters. It flatters your ego to be part of a group that designs itself as an elite, that are the chosen ones. How can you not feel good about it?
Yeah, so the only problem is every time he punches, he brings his hand down, leaves his face open. It's always a bad idea. I mean, it's good exercise, but always a bad idea. Hey, Winning, what's up, brother? What is up? Good to see you. Good to see you. DMs. I don't know. I shut down my Discord whenever I'm streaming because it ends up dinging and pinging and doing all kinds of nasty stuff. Poor form. Yes, very poor form. Yes, that was so whenever you make a punch, if you're making a punch and you're bringing your hand down, you're leaving yourself open for a slap upside the head, especially if they're able to basically deflect your punch and you've already left your hand down. So it's good exercise. So kudos on him, you know. He's getting good exercise, getting his cardio in.
Believed that I was superior to most other people on this planet, that I had been chosen. And I would start considering other people as being less than what I was.
People are always less than what you are, sir. They always are. Put it on vibrate or silent, but leave it where you can see it. I'm on Discord now too. Yeah, see, it's not on my phone. I mean, I think I might have it on my phone, but it's on my computer, so it just makes a bunch of noise.
Not aware, not awake, having no idea of what life was really all about. So there was no other option for me than to stay within the group.
So I thought we were doing... You're doing more than I see, Winning. I got your message. Well, I always do this on Mondays. That maybe, yeah, Saturday night. Yeah. That's for me means. Yes, Discord is horrible, and it slows down my computer. I open it up and I see your DM. I thought we were on for Wednesday. This one here was a I have my regular Monday that I always do, but I thought I was coming on yours on Monday. That's what I was thinking. Sweater guy has the vibes of some serious money. Yeah, this is the guy that got brought into that group that thought he was. Yeah, definitely. Sounds good. We can make that happen. I'm still up for Wednesday. Just drop me a link and I'll be there. That'd be fun. It'll be fun. It will be.
Because therefore, that's where my salvation was.
The Order's leaders, Joe DeMambro and Luc Jure, carefully designed such ceremonies to engender a sense of mystery and of being in touch with the eternal. But they were very different personalities, as Delorme remembers.
People would come up to me and tell me, do you know that DeMambro is probably the most powerful reincarnated entity on the face of this planet? Where it came to a point where you must not sit in his chair, you must not use Jure's chair. The energies were too strong.
Yes.
Because these people were so powerful. You look at Jure and you could probably believe that if you wanted to. But you look at DeMambro and you're saying, him. But then on a couple of occasions, you just see him in action and see that he had control on things.
From a young age, DeMambro liked to be in control.
He was a man who in his childhood had a history of violence. He told us that, in fact, growing up, he hadn't really known his father at all. He also said to us that he had developed a special, slightly odd relationship with his mother. He used to sit up with her far into the night, and they used to knit together.
That is a weird relationship. Winning sounds like a disco robot duck Saturday night quack quack. Disturb the hell out of me, chickens. You funny Daisy. I like Winning. Winning's good people. Winning's good people.
He used to sit up with her far into the night, and they used to knit together. He had picked up what he called the rhythm of his mother, and he very soon discovered that he was gifted, above all, as a hypnotist.
So he's a skilled hypnotist. Okay.
In his 30s, DeMambro joined a mystic Christian organization, Amorc, and rose to become master of a French lodge. Then, in the best Templar tradition, he went to Jerusalem.
What? Everyone doesn't knit with their mothers all night long? Of course. And you learn their rhythm. You can feel their heartbeat. Makes it easier to reach in there and grab the heart out. It's weird. It's weird. No, that's a little odd. Sitting around and learning to knit. Okay. I mean, if you want to. I don't know. My wife knits. I find it interesting. And yes, there is a certain rhythm to knitting. Once you get in a specific rhythm, like you'd hear like those knitting needles click, 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 and they get a specific rhythm to it. Her grandmother, both of her grandmothers could knit really well. The rhythm's gonna get you. Absolutely. They've got a weapon with them all the time.
Where he claimed he would conceive a child who would be a prophet.
Il nous parlait beaucoup d'Israël, qu'il avait été.
If he conceives a child, that's pretty awesome. I would like to say that if you're the first man to conceive a child, you could probably be giving birth to a prophet. I feel like I've been to this place before. If this is in France, I feel like I've been there. I have to look at it again. It really looks like a place I've been in France. Like this, what looks like a staircase here, and I could be wrong on this particular building, but I think I've been there. Inside here, it's a big open space, and you can actually ride a carriage up inside of it. They actually had it specially built because once you get up to the top of this, there's like a whole courtyard built up on top of it, and they specially carved it out. I've got pictures of it somewhere. I have to show it, but I'm pretty sure this is the same one. Oh, yeah, I'll have to bring it up. Damn, I'm almost positive. This is the same place. And I've got pictures of these beautiful gardens that are up on the top side of this whole castle. It's really cool.
Master of a French lodge. Then, in the best Templar tradition, he went to Jerusalem where he claimed he would conceive a child who would be a prophet.
Il nous parlait beaucoup d'Israël.
And these all of this stuff along this side over here, if I'm not mistaken, are apartments. I'm pretty sure this is the right place.
He spoke a lot about Israel. He said he had been close to important people in Israel, including the head of the Israeli Secret Services, and that he had stayed with him in his house. He had helped him in Israel. And then one day he had to flee from Israel without his passport, without anything, into Egypt to get back to Europe.
Well, yeah, depending on what year you're over in Israel, I'm sure there was a little bit of unrest there. Eurofed? I didn't know that. Congratulations. No, there's only one Fed in my chat. And they're a mod, so you better be careful because they know where you're at right now. They're actually watching you through your camera. Oh, I know you think it's off, but they're watching you. They see you. Cult guys a Fed.
Retourner en Europe.
Back in Europe, de Mambro was jailed for a minor fraud in 1972. Once free, he managed to wangle a permit to live in Switzerland, where he set up a cultural foundation which would develop into the order.
Let's see, these are some really pretty streets. I mean, they looks like they've limbed up these branches, but these are really pretty streets up through here. I mean, people are pretty chill. You walk through these little villages. There you go. Not a gluey. Wait, let me change it. Really quick. Where is it? There we go. Not a glue.
I think the people who claim that de Mambro was a con man are right. I think that the people who claim that de Mambro was convinced about his spiritual message are right too. De Mambro was just a kind of complex personality, actually a kind of schizophrenic and disturbed personality.
Hey, is there something wrong with that? Hey, Libby, good to see you, brother. My camera always has blue tape on it. Well, blue tape doesn't do anything except remove the blue color. It's a thought.
The terrible consequence of it is that it is a total loss of reality, and the dream world he elaborated was shared with several people who more and more entered into his delusions.
Thierry was one of many followers who lived in small communities established and run by the order. De Membro controlled every aspect of their lives.
Il nous disait, si vous prolongez quand même votre amour, entre guillemets, terrestre.
He'd say to us, for example, that our love for someone had now run its course on earth, and if we didn't accept that, wait and see the troubles we'd have in our afterlives. So everything about our lives, the food we ate, our experiences in the crypts, the smallest things were controlled. So we lived with a sword constantly above our heads. But he was very clever. He said, you don't have to listen to me. I'm just a signpost. I'm just telling you the way. You can go which way you want. But then don't come to me afterwards and complain.
Well, you can't, because you'd be like not there anymore. So don't come back to me and complain whenever everything goes to hell in a handbasket. I won't be able to help you. Well, no, of course, because you're going to set yourself on fire. So it's pretty hard to, you don't want to be helped by this person. Although my father worked for United Fruit in the 1980s. United Fruit. You guys are hilarious. I love it.
As he was constantly showing us what a master he was in the crypts, in everything, we were completely taken over by his personality.
As you should.
It was like a child who loves his father. His father's everything. He'll believe what his father says is right. He was our father, and there were 50 children.
The other leader, Luc Jouret, had a very different background. A homeopathic doctor, he was well known on the New Age circuit in Canada. He preached a conventional ecological message, advocated a macrobiotic diet, and gave seminars on motivation.
Does this sound familiar? I'm seeing this in some of these other spaces. I mean, if you look at what he's talking about, self-reliance, following the religion of God, doing all of these wonderful things, for his group. It's like we're gonna build this up from the ruins after everybody destroys it. Doesn't this sound a little bit like some weird bearded guy we've heard of, like within the past couple of years? Doesn't it sound a little bit like him? That seminal order group, doesn't it sound a lot like them? Motivational. I'm traveling about. I'm going to have get-togethers. I'm going to have people join. We're going to talk and we're going to converse. Yet they're complete degenerate behind closed doors. Sounds really familiar. So maybe people are actually getting... Levy, you're funny. You're funny. The seminal order. No, it sounds a lot like that. And I will say that I was actually checking out this whole what do you call it, the seminal order group, and I was just like, something doesn't sound quite right. And I would receive like these messages to join us now, and I'm just like, I'm not a big joiner of groups. And I mean, I don't know, just call me jaded, whenever something sounds too good to be true, it generally is. Like, what are you doing to help people out? I mean, like, I understand the Amish, they get together and they can build a barn like in a day, but that's a little bit different because they're going about their lives and doing their own thing. But his little group was definitely weird. Definitely weird. It seems like they're, or is it Seminole? Could be Seminole. Could be Seminole. Could be Seminole. That's why we were surrounded by bodyguards. Whenever we were told my siblings to hide from Dad in New York City, Dad thought we were missing. Yeah, that little group, you know, the self-help. I mean, there's other people that are just that will show you the way without, like, yeah, you don't have to do what I'm saying, but if you're, for example, you got someone like Zuby that, you know, it's like, here's my book on, you know, getting yourself more fit. Love you guys. I do music, and, you know, I have a take on things, and you can agree with him or not. Someone like that I can have more respect for than someone like the Andrew Tates of the world, the Jack Murphys, the Eliza Blues. I don't have a whole lot of tolerance for those kinds of people. I find them as little titties order of that kind. So what's a cult? Yes. That's pretty good. Good call on that. Hey, well, hey, Just Dawn, how you doing? Daisy girl. Shame for shame. So the translation of the French on screen says, "What's a cult?" And that was brought by Tweety. She actually translated that out. I couldn't. Well, yeah, I can see it now. So KSDC, yeah. So that would be sect. It helps whenever you know a little bit of that language. I don't know a whole lot, and the thing is if that was Spanish, it would be spelt similarly, except the apostrophe wouldn't be there, and there would be an E there, and then you would have the S8, but the CE wouldn't be. It's really weird. Latin language is so hard, but you can find some of the same stuff in them. I'm bad at this kind of shit. I'll continue on.
Jean-Francois Meyer met him in 1987. Their discussions were surprisingly open.
He spoke to me about some problems he had in his personal life, especially the premature death of a child, which obviously affected him quite a lot. Jouret really was quite convinced that he had a mission to fulfill, that he was like a kind of representative of the Templar Order into the profane world. But he confided me some details which actually, if they would have been made public at the time, could have created some trouble for him. For instance, he told me, telling me to keep it as being confidential, that it had been ordained a priest by a wandering bishop, and that he was officiating as a priest inside the group, inside the Templar Order. Of course, nobody outside of the group knew that.
Dun, dun, dun. That's the music. That's what's, it's so bad. So bad. I like their little robes, though. I think these are women in robes. You can tell by the way their butts are shaped.
I would have become involved with just about anything to stay with Dr. Jouret. And I felt that if I was able to get closer to him, or at least to stay within the group, that at some point I would probably gain more knowledge. I would probably have access to revelations, to wonderful things, and even maybe at one point to be in contact with either entities or extraterrestrials or whatever. That's the impression that I got.
Wow. Dude, that's just fucked up. Well, this right here would be more of the Spanish version of that. You could always just do it in Pig Latin, Daisy. Oh gosh. Yeah, whenever we were kids, we thought that was some new revelation, Pig Latin. Sorry. Oh, that's so bad. So dude thinks that he's going to get some sort of divine revelation if he stays with this group of people. At what point do you start questioning it? And I mean, I joke about this, but that's one of my biggest problems with like organized religions and organized groups as a whole. Why it's Sweater Guy has uber wealth, untouchable funds level. Yeah, he was a director for a watch factory. Yeah, pretty much. He wanted a virgin. Virgins are so overrated. Virgins are so overrated. Just saying. A pygmy. No, this guy right here, yes, he had some serious wealth, and that's why he can afford, that really expensive bicycle and to, do his little air boxing or shadow boxing in his living room. People question they called it Trump and Biden. When will people yeah, I mean that's the deal right there. And I mean, I give some serious respect for what both of those people have done in their respective places. Doesn't mean that I have to be all get out, be out on any particular person. But you also have to look at it and call out the bullshit whenever you see it. So I mean, I had a buddy of mine that whenever he would start going off about Trump because he just absolutely despised him. That he was basically one of those that were a complete never Trumper. He just didn't like the way the guy delivered, the way he talked, the way he acted. Everything about him was just appalling to him. But to justify that sort of anger and hatred that he had towards him, he would buy into the bullshit that was told to him and fed to him. The speech that he made about the crap that happened in North Carolina, every single thing that he would talk about, you could show him that's not what was said. And, do I think that Trump is a shithead? Absolutely. I think he's a total shithead. But, I think somebody pointed this out to me in a DM. They said, I think people are just, no, maybe it was whatever. They basically pointed out that Trump, I think a lot of politicians are pissed off at him because he's no different than what they are. He's just more bold about it. Yes. Trump is a New York uber wealthy guy is overtly directly blunt. Yeah. Yep. Arguably kills more people. Yeah. And see that's one of the things somebody wanted to engage with me on the whole Trump thing. And I said, well, I'm calling them, if I'm not calling them MAGAs, what should I call them? I said, well, call them fellow Americans. I mean, just because they support somebody different or they throw in their support doesn't mean, and all you're doing is you're pushing people away. Yeah. Trump is a marketing genius. Absolutely. I agree. No, I mean, if you're pushing people away from from even having a conversation. That right there is the most polarizing portion of it. And whenever I'll just use this as an example. Had somebody come in that wanted to debate me. It's like, I don't do debates. I mean, because you're already coming at me in an attack, and if you're attacking me, I don't feel the need to have to defend my beliefs, and other people do. Just like, I believe what I believe, and if it's wrong, it susses out in the long run. But to get in some argument over it with somebody, it just doesn't solve any problem. I'm not going to change their mind. Like, I couldn't change my buddy's mind about how he felt about Trump. He still feels the same way, and I still think he's a pretty cool guy because we have fun doing games and crap like that online. So, but we don't let our politics get involved. Whenever it starts to shift to the politics thing, we just pretty much go, we see where this is going. Let's just play. So that's what friends do. That's how guys normally act and say, we're not going to agree on this, so let's just move on. That's not why we came here in the first place.
And you wanted that?
Oh, yes, I wanted that. Entities or extraterrestrials or whatever. That's the impression that I got.
And you wanted that?
Oh, yes, I wanted that.
Look at those pretty capes. Doesn't everybody want a cape like that? You think I could get this guy to knit me one?
Only the elite, who had passed all the initiations from novice to knight, were treated to the secrets of the inner sanctum.
Oh, and they get swords too. Oh, I'm so jealous. Get capes and swords. Welcome, CO26785. Welcome to Rumble. Good to see you. Sorry, I can't pull your chats up in Rumble. They haven't gotten that straight out. Never trust a guy in a cape. I know, because usually they're like hiding something. Like the whole, what do you call it? Oh, let's see. CO6275. I'm just going to say C0. I'm just going to say C0. C0 over in Rumble. He wants a Superman cape and 10 wives. I mean, that sounds like fun. Superman cape, 10 wives. Hell yes. Rumble is stumbling. No, you're good. You're good. Well, I see you over there. I see you over there.
Sanctum. Here they were privy to startling revelations. Not only messages from their mysterious spiritual masters, but sometimes apparitions of the figures themselves. Legends seemed to come to life. Objects of tremendous spiritual significance mysteriously.
The super rich are weird. I mean, I guess it's because like all of your wants, desires, your freakish kind of whatever kink that you might be into is sort of exposed. So it looks weird to other people. I mean, think about how many people think that Elon's got some really weird ideas and things that he does. I mean, I think they're weird, but for him, it makes perfect sense.
Materialized. Proof, claimed Dimambro, of how blessed they all were.
He would say to us, "Do you realize that we are the only people on the planet to be seeing these things? That throughout history, there have been great souls, great saints, and they have never had a sign. And we have flashes, signs.
Oh, and those signs that they were getting were basically him getting them like tripping balls and then showing like little 3-dimensional hologram images and just flashes of it, like a trick of the eyes. And if you're hallucinating and you start seeing really, really weird stuff, that's going to get really crazy. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, nobody can identify with me. I'm too out there. I mean, let's put it this way: if I was a multimillionaire, some of the weird stuff about me, whew, it would probably curl someone's toes. See, you guys are hilarious.
We have the blood of Christ. We have masters who materialize in front of our very eyes, and Excalibur, and we have the menorah.
Excalibur and the menorah.
The 7-branched candelabra which belonged in the Ark of the Covenant. One day, the Holy Grail, the very Holy Grail the Knights of the Round Table had sought after, appeared in the Ark of the Covenant.
Really? And these people believe this shit. But hey, you gotta have your like. Here's my Holy Grail. Nice bottle of bourbon. Never ending. I mean, magnified. Yes. I would have to be a multimillionaire. It's just a millionaire. You're not that weird.
It had a shining quality.
Didn't you have any doubts?
No, we fell to our knees with more than joy.
Man, he still looks ecstatic talking about it. And just think, this is a highly intelligent person. He's not a complete idiot. He's just a highly intelligent person. You're better than average. I mean, he's not walking around, talking to himself in the street to another guy that's on the other side of the country. He's not doing that. He's a functioning human being. He probably has a regular job or a regular career. He's a totally functioning human being. He's part of the population. And for him, he buys into all of this stuff. Buys into it hook, line, and sinker. They shouldn't, but definitely should be lying and tricking us nowadays. That's just politics. It's really sad. Yes. DNA laced wine. Hey, I mean, whatever is going to do it. I mean, one of my old bandmates, I don't know why he did this, but he decided it was a good idea to take an illicit drug that has been also called the gang graping drug, if you understand my meaning there. Yeah. And in a bar, and I get somebody like tapping me on the shoulder, like, hey, your buddy is like passed out in a stall in the bathroom. Yeah. Stupid things that people do. So I had to drag his ass home. He doesn't even remember. Shh, we don't know anything about that. But yeah, he did that. So I had to drag his ass home. Like, because he's an idiot. But people do stupid things. And that's what this guy did. Stupid things.
Appeared in the Ark of the Covenant. It had a shining quality.
Didn't you have any doubts?
No, we fell to our knees with more than joy to see the Holy Grail.
While de Mambro was mesmerizing his followers, he himself was increasingly worried. He became convinced the order was under surveillance.
Well, yeah.
Qui disait qu'on était continuellement.
He was convinced that we as a
Oh, that's a pretty cool little place. That building actually looks like it's in France. And the only reason I say that is because of the color of what's on the outside of it. Place we stayed in France, all the buildings that would have been like in the Loire Valley. They use different kinds of stone, different kinds of material on the buildings, architectural shit. It's pretty cool to give it this color. So that looks like something out of like the Loire Valley.
Group were being listened to. He didn't want anyone to understand what we said to each other on the phone.
And did he give you the slightest impression who might be doing that?
Politicians,
does happen.
men of the state. I soon understood that this was a man who was afraid.
It was hardly surprising. De Mambro had been involved with many questionable characters. One particular unsavory connection was Julien Origas, who lived here in the Chateau d'Auty in southwest France.
What we can tell with certainty is that there was a connection with the renovated order of the Temple of Julien Origas, and
Usually wait until after I've streamed into my accounts because I don't want to be a reason for bad things. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's okay. I'm not stressing it out. You're not at this point in where my YouTube stuff is, they would have to come back after it, which is fine. If they want to come after me after the fact, it is bleh, bleh. Sorry. I'm not stressing it.
Southwest France.
what we can tell with certainty is that there was a connection with the renovated order of the Temple of Julien Origas, and Origas obviously had some interaction with some people on the right.
On the far
On the far right, yes, on the far right, okay.
Oh, and then they have to show this. Great.
A Gestapo agent during the war, Origas had strong links with Mussolini and Italy.
So that's Origas right there. What's with the ladies in the straw hats? I don't understand. And why is he not wearing his shirt?
Italian fascists. The French detective Roger Facon found that after the war, when many collaborators were shot, Origas was allowed to slip back to France and set up a new Templar order.
When Origas started his Neo-Templar order, well, there's this Templar vocation since his order.
See, now, this is never good. So Roger Facon, which is a police officer, he's got the double bridge too, and those squared off glasses it just reeks of serial killer. The impressive thing is though, he's got an impressive mullet, so that just like takes away the serial killer portion of it. Just makes him look like, you know, tat up front. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Order was claiming Templar heritage. So there's this Neo-Templar structure. There's this
The mullet. I'm telling you, the mullet's awesome.
Templar language. There are these Neo-Templar teachings. But that's really just playing to the gallery. At the same time, there was a much more, shall we say, pragmatic purpose behind it all. And that was to report on the activity of the extreme French right in 1970, 1972, 1976. And that's when the far right was being rebuilt in France.
De Mambro knew he could make good use of...
You just have to remember, whenever they're talking about the far right in France, I mean, they're talking about like serious extreme far right. Like we're talking, you know, how about the stuff that here in America they would consider just like extreme left. It's really weird.
Origas' right-wing connections. By 1981, Origas was an old man, and Dimambro had persuaded him it was time to hand over the position of Grand Master to Luc Jouret. As with everything in the order, it required secrecy and ceremony.
Secrecy, ceremony. Those are some of the most glorious things to have, secrecy and ceremony. But how can you do a ceremony if it's secret? Somebody has to know it. Because a secret is what one person knows. If not, there's a conversation.
As Thierry remembers.
Là, il s'organise une cérémonie.
Then we had a very important ceremony. The ceremony of the passing of the torch from the old master who is dying to the new one.
Dimambro now had access to Origa's extensive right-wing connections, but he may have bitten off more than he could chew. The letter to the French minister Pasqua mentions many members were not true Templars, but racists and terrorists organized by police special forces.
Whoa. Whoa, that's a harsh call right there.
Did some of these become enemies of the new leaders?
I was told on an...
Most people, it seems, don't appreciate how truly unique and rare America is. Oh, I've got a new series I'm going to start up. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. I'm thinking about because see, I've sort of reserved my Mondays for doing these kinds of streams, these very particular ones, both on Rumble and here. I mean, make sure you guys hit the like button too. But I've got another one that I'm going to start doing. That's yeah, it's going to be tasty. It's going to be good, and it's going to have a lot to do with how truly unique and rare America is. That's what Marlon Brando tried to do to Martin Sheen, pass the torch. Yes, that is exactly what he tried to do. God, and man, that's what I really hate. I really hate it that you can't pull up movies and show them on YouTube, because I would show that movie in a heartbeat and really break down some of those scenes, because they are just so intense. That whole movie is just insane. And what was that? Oh God, what was that movie with Martin Sheen and Charlie Sheen passing each other on a river, and they both looked over at each other and they went, "Loved You on Wall Street." So fucking hilarious. So hilarious. I cannot remember the name of the movie that was from, but they just pointed at each other. "I loved you on Wall Street." Damn it. I'll have to look that up sometime. But no, the Apocalypse Now would be an awesome movie to be able to just sit down and pick apart and show some of the intense scenes that were happening in that kind of movie, because that was showing some of the darkness of human nature in so many different ways. It was impressive.
A number of occasions that Dimambro was so important a planetary presence that many people wanted to eliminate him.
Yet none of this background was mentioned in the official police investigation. In April 1996, the Swiss investigators held a press conference.
And see, this is where, you're thinking, in modern times, how many things the redo is even better. Yeah. In modern times, a lot of people say, "Oh, the media is not reporting the whole thing. The government's withholding information. They're not talking about things," and it becomes this cantankerous kind of thing where where people say, "Oh, well, this is recent." No, it isn't recent. It's been going on for quite some time. These guys are being lambasted by the media because they don't know, they don't understand. It's hard for the human mind to comprehend that somebody would. I mean, look at it this way. How many of these people, even sitting in this little press room, if you told them in just a few decades that parents would be taking their kids to have, like, give them drugs to make sure that they didn't grow up, they became Peter Pans, that adults would be having double mastectomies because they thought that they were a man. Do you think anybody here would have even how they would have reacted to it? I mean, you have to understand, this is in the 90s. You're not too far away. In just a few more years, you're going to see 2 towers come tumbling down because some radical people put planes into them. And then just a couple of decades later, you've got people chopping body parts off and thinking it's okay. And their minds wouldn't even be able to comprehend that. But it becomes normalized. So, it's interesting to see where these guys are at in the 90s talking about this, because these guys are so far out there. They're so far, and I'm not saying that they're ahead of their time, but their thinking is not understood. In the 80s, in the 70s, in the 60s, in the 50s, in the 40s, 30s, in the 20s, you can take this stuff back, thousands of years. There were groups around that thought that they had all of the answers, but they don't have all of the answers. But it's about the grift, and that's what they're doing. Some of these people are grifting. Some of them are just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And so they're going to be doing things like this that just really are disturbing. Therefore, the name of my streams on these.
In April 1996, the Swiss investigators held a press conference. Their chief investigator, André Piller, argued most of the dead were deluded and willing to die, and that...
Yes. And most of the deluded nowadays, what are they doing to themselves?
The Mambro and Jure had become paranoid for no good reason.
Our inquiry has found that the authors of this showed determination and the will to achieve their goal and designs. One can even say that they were obsessed by it. This was not a simple happening, but an apocalypse, the plan for which had been developed over a very long time.
But our own investigations reveal a very different picture. There's little evidence to suggest the order was planning to annihilate itself. Quite the opposite. In Canada by the late 1980s, the order was expanding, buying several properties near Montreal. It acquired this farm at Sainte-Anne-de-la-Parade, where it developed a New Age community, heavily into organic farming. They even planned a nuclear shelter.
Imagine that.
Hardly the act of an organization about to wipe itself out. But the order was increasingly concerned about official surveillance, and with good cause. It started late in 1992, when one of the Canadian leaders, Jean-Pierre Vinet, asked Herman Delorme to lend him a gun to go hunting.
one point he said, it is possible that you won't see it again. I said, fine, no problem. Can you imagine being so stupid? Anyhow, I gave him the gun, and 2 weeks later, he comes back to me during another conference, and he says, well, he says, what you brought to me was fine, but not exactly what I needed. He says, what I'm looking for is more in the way of something that is silent. He says, could you find something that has a silencer?
Man, some people are so stupid with what a silencer is. Silencers are actually a really, really, really useful tool. They don't have that pew pew sound that you would hear on, some movies where it's all this choo, 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 choo. It sounds like a little cap gun or something. That's not what they do. They just bring down the sound quite a bit. It just brings down the decibels, but it also slows down the speed that a bullet can travel, because it's muffling. It's like a muffler on a car. You can still hear it. Silencer, suppressor, completely different things. So a suppressor suppresses the flash. So whenever fire comes out, whenever you fire a bullet, there's a lot of fire that comes out, and it's very visible. So a suppressor, like you'll find on the end of like an M16, M1, has where it basically flares it out. So, and you'll see it in a lot of stuff. It just has this little flare. Yes, silencers will cover the flash. They're also really useful in an enclosed space. So if you're in a building, you don't blow out your eardrums from the concussion of having that explosion. But it's still very, very, very loud, because guns are very loud. But yes, there's a flash suppressor, and then there's a silencer, which really isn't a silencer. It's a noise suppression. So it basically brings down the volume. The decibels become a little bit more tolerable, which I think that suppressors should be used in home defense, personally. And the reason I say that is because then you don't blow out your eardrums while you're protecting yourself. That's why whenever you hear someone say, well, all you have to do is just fire one round in the air. Well, that doesn't do any good, because what if you fire the round in the air and now you can't hear it because your ears are ringing? You hear gunshots in movies, and trust me, a gunshot in real life, your ears are ringing afterwards. Especially you put it in an enclosed space, it's very loud. Your ears will ring like mad. That's one of the reasons why something like an AR is very, very useful in a home. Shotguns, not so much. I mean, they can cause a hell of a lot of damage, but you miss somebody and it's gonna do some more damage. Plus, certain rounds are going to go through walls. It just depends. Each case has its own situation that you want to use something. I've heard both. Homemade make a big difference. Yeah. Now, see, if you're using some sort of noise suppressor in, you'll see these people that they use, like in movies, they'll be putting like an oil filter over it and things like that. If you did something like that in real life, you might get one shot out, and it's going to be so inaccurate. You're not going to be able to see the sights, crap like that. So you're sort of guessing at that kind of thing. I mean, if you want to know what the perfect home defense is, get a big dog. They will mess some stuff up. But is it perfect? No, there is no perfect home defense. Sorry. But it's a pretty good home defense. Big dog is going to stop a lot of people from coming in. Guarantee it. Guarantee it.
It's more in the way of something that is silent. It says, could you find something that has a silencer? So I started asking around, and the first people I asked to were friends of mine, and one of those friends was a police officer.
What in the hell is he doing? What in the hell is this boy doing? I'm sorry. So I'm watching this guy, like, he's rolling on his back. He's not doing sit-ups. He's basically curled into a ball and he's rocking. God, so annoying.
Asked who were friends of mine, and one of those friends was a police officer, and he thought I was crazy. And
This guy probably has a gut and he's trying to get rid of it. Yes, that right there would be awesome home defense. Just open it up. Those are not sit-ups. Those are not even close to sit-ups. I might see like a one of my nieces or nephews doing something like this. That's not a sit-up. Not a sit-up.
And sooner or later, I latched on to somebody that, without my knowledge, was a police informant. So as soon as I told him that I was looking for a gun with a silencer, he rang up, probably rang up the SQ headquarters and said, hey, I got this guy here that's looking for a gun with a silencer.
The Sûreté Québécoise, the Quebec police, convinced themselves Herman was setting up a terrorist cell.
In a pool room. Some of their stuff doesn't match up. Why would you put a pool room and call it a terrorist cell? Damn, they've got those pool tables really packed in there. Damn, I miss the pool rooms. Those are fun. You're crazy. Absolutely. Didn't you know this by now? Come on.
An informant was
like
instructed to trap Herman
makes me even
by offering
crazier.
him an arsenal of weapons. The police also started to tap Herman's phone.
So I'm checking out the bar here. That's horrible. That is a horrible bar. So they've got some like really cheap laminate, and then they've got this wood that's painted surrounding it. Man, that has got to suck, because all that stuff is just going to leak in those cracks anytime someone spills a beer. Laminate is horrible garbage crap. Quebecese, gotta love the French language.
This led them back to Jean-Pierre Vinet, who by coincidence happened to have an office in the same building as the Prime Minister of Quebec. That was enough for the police. They saw a major terrorist threat. In a classic sting, Delorme was sold the gun by the informant, allowed to take it away, and then arrested as he tried to deliver it to Vinet.
So I saw this car.
It's not true. No, it's still extremely loud. It'll still ring your ears. It will still ring your ears.
Car blocking my way. Automatically, I just stepped on the brake, put it in reverse. But at the same time, another car comes up behind me and blocks my way. And then there's this van that comes up on the side about 10 feet from my...
So it sounds like this guy was an informant and just got suckered into it because he went and bought a silencer. Oh, Expert's live too. Love the Expert. Expert's good people. So Tweety and I were on with the Expert last night. It was fun. We had a good time. All Catholics. That's good. That's good. I like that. Oh, maybe you're awesome.
And then there's this van that comes up on the side about 10 feet from my car. The two doors open, and there's those two guys there that are yelling like banshees. And I've got machine guns or assault pistol weapons pointed at me, and I just saw myself die.
In fact, Delorme and Vinet were just fined $1,000 each for buying arms illegally. But when the Canadian press got hold of the tapes of the police taps, they found the authorities in Europe were already watching the order. One journalist who heard the tapes works for Quebec's largest paper, La Presse.
La Presse.
À un moment donné, avant qu'il soit arrêté ici, là,
At a certain moment on the tapes, and this is in the hours before a warrant for his arrest was issued here, Jaurès is complaining to Vinet or his wife that he had been arrested, that he was treated like a brigand. And he's outraged by that, he says. Now I tried to find out from the police who had arrested him and where, but it wasn't possible to do so.
No.
If we knew that, we would know the extent to which the group was being watched and suspected in Europe.
The most likely scenario is that the Quebec police asked their counterparts in France and Switzerland to help. Martin Pelchat tried hard to follow the international trail.
There was a warrant for the arrest of Jaurès put out through Interpol. Now, after he was found guilty here, did the police forces continue to keep the group under surveillance?
What was it? La Presse? Or was it Le Presse? I'm trying to remember it. One of them, I think, is the masculine term. Tweety would know. Sounds like something he would say to make make fun of. Yes, sounds like something you would make fun of Frenchies. I will say he's playing Zelda. That's weak. No. A lot of people think that the French hate Americans, and they really don't. They really don't. I was actually quite surprised that they were, as far as outside of the cities, how relaxed and chill they were, and were more interested in having like a real conversation. Met this old guy that was doing woodworking. Actually, I think we got a bowl from him made of ash. And man, that old guy, he really liked Trump. He really liked Trump. I found it humorous. I don't. He might have been trying to impress or something, thinking that all Americans supported him or something. But it was so cool to sit down with this guy and just talk woodworking, not politics, not any of the crazy stuff that you see in the news on a regular basis, but just to have a conversation with somebody talking about their passion and your passion, something that you enjoy doing. That's a beautiful thing right there. And that everyone sees, some sort of Twitter feed or YouTube thing of, the French are rioting or doing these, things because Americans and fascists and all this other kind of stuff. And someone in California is, all about, poop in the streets. But whenever you actually get there and you start talking to the people that are in these areas, that you find that you've got a lot of similarities, a lot of the same interests. And instead of being not as Woodwood dudes, there you go. Absolutely. Why wouldn't I? We actually use some of the same processing to gray the wood, make the wood gray. I know that sounds kinky, but it's interesting to see that there's a lot of similarities throughout your own country, throughout other countries, and it's easy to have a misconception. Like one of the guys that I game with, he's in Canada, and he just views Americans as like wild west, because he can't imagine that I can actually strap on a 9mm, go anywhere I want to in the state of Georgia and South Carolina and Florida, and never have to take the thing off. that I won't be harassed, that people aren't going to panic and think that I'm trying to shoot them. It's amazing to him that you have that kind of thing. Don't get him started on his deck. Thank you, Levy. I appreciate it. Don't get me started on my deck. Wait till you start it. Wait until I start showing you like my smoker, my wood. All right, we'll get back on with this. I'm sorry, I'll stop holding you guys up.
That seems very probable to me.
This might explain de Mambro's paranoia. It wasn't helped when in 1993 he and his wife were in Canada and applied to the French embassy for new French passports. It should have been a standard request, but it was referred back to Paris.
There's a lawyer in...
Look at all those buildings. It just looks really freaking cold and desperate. I'm sorry. I have an aversion to large cities. I like being out in the countryside and seeing like wide open spaces. I like desolate, deserted areas. It's so enjoyable. This right here just looks freakish and spooky to me. It looks cold, scary. Don't like it.
Quebec wrote to Jocelyn de Mambro in order to tell her, well, you should take that problem quite seriously. This is going to...
Hey, Pixel. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. I have Gabe here. Good. Hey, that's absolutely fine. You just make sure you hit the like button.
To a higher level, obviously it got wind that the French authorities had become a little bit suspicious. And so through writing a letter like that, obviously it confirmed the worst fears of the group.
There were serious problems by early 1993. The order was suffering from internal squabbles. De Mambro was quizzed on what he had done with the large sums of money donated by members. But far more significant, the order's doctrines were being questioned. Thierry and some others discovered the apparitions of spiritual masters were just clever illusions created by lighting tricks and holograms.
I said that that's what they were doing some holograms, some really creepy shit.
Tout ce que j'avais perçu pendant des années, mais que j'avais...
Everything that I had wondered about for years, but suppressed saying. I didn't want to believe it. And when I found out it was all false, it all came back up like a bubble to the surface of water. I wanted to kill myself. I really did want to kill myself.
No, that's bad. Everybody, that's really bad. Oh, thank you, John. And by the way, Rose is one of my mods, and she's awesome person. So I'm glad that you could come in and say hello. Really, I am. I'm humbled by how nice Rose is for me. She's absolutely a sweetheart. Absolutely a sweetheart. Thank you very much.
I just couldn't bear it anymore.
De Mambro's reaction was characteristically ingenious. To keep the rebels on board, he revealed that they were in fact reincarnations of great saints.
Il m'a remis.
He put me back.
So why are they showing these churches in like really bad lighting? I've got much better pictures of this. I've got much better pictures of these kinds of things. These stained glass windows are actually so much prettier than what they're making them out to be. It's just bad lighting.
Back in a context that in many ways I didn't want to leave. I had worked 14 years in the group, believing in everything I was told. Now I discovered it was all false. But then Joe made me live through extraordinary experiences. Now I was told I was the vehicle for another reincarnation, that I was Saint Bernard of Clairvaux.
De Mambro also resorted to blackmail.
Le cas de Monsieur Pilet.
The case of Mr. Pilet. They compromised him completely, and when he refused to stump up any more money, They threatened him with revealing that he had had sexual relations with Jure. Yes.
Oh.
Under pressure from all sides, Di Mambro fought back.
Dimambro gère constamment des
Di
problèmes
Mambro was
caractéristiques.
dealing constantly with human problems, which is not surprising when you're running an organization like a dictator or like a Führer, when you're splitting couples up and creating others. You can hardly expect to have a quiet life. Di Mambro was a guy who was used to difficulties. He lived in the midst of them. So, all of a sudden, he's going to kill himself when faced with a problem? I'd say it's the opposite. Rather, he'd find a terrible energy to fight back. If there's a logic to apply in this case, it's certainly not that of giving up.
The pressure on Di Mambro was now coming from many directions. In January 94, 10 months before the deaths, and then again in July, Facon was offered a commission. He is still unwilling to say by whom.
Yes, they asked me to write a book which would expose the order's leaders, Di Mambro and Jure. And was it just the two of them?
If we live in a simulation, aren't holograms reality? I think I can convert this guy back. That's funny, Levy. You're going to get him back in the group. Come on. I know you can do it. Come on. That mullet. How much you want to bet? And I'm just guessing, just looking at this image right here, that this dude has shaved it all off. He's gone bald. 1994 had terrible hairstyles. Oh, see, in New Mexico at the time, one of the big things was the rat tails. That would have been what, in the 80s? They had the rat tails. That's what they called them. Seriously, it was like it went beyond having just the mullet. Like they would cut it short, except for this one like rat tail. Oh, being coach. No, this guy, you can tell he's got a bad hairline. You can see it already starting to really recede, and he's just sort of fluffed it up in the front. 83-ish. Well, it's New Mexico. They were like 10 years behind anyway. So what do you expect? What do you
expect? Or were there other figures involved?
Donc les dirigeants, plus des gens
yeah, the leaders and also some others. Others who seemed to annoy them, who had risen in the ranks of the Solar Temple. And I have to say, in particular, that's when I first got to hear of a certain Lardanchet.
Lardanchet was one of the 2 French police officers seen near the chalets just after the first deaths.
Damn.
Both were found dead in the Vercors. No one knows whether they were true mystics or working undercover. After the first killings, both were interrogated and released. They were allowed to keep their service revolvers. It now turns out that these guns were used to kill some of the 16 in the Vercors itself.
Damn. So these guys were with the police department, and they were so ingrained and so convincing that they were able to keep their service weapons. They kept their service weapons, and then they committed atrocities with those. Damn. Ouch. That's really weird. They actually have them docked up like this. One thing that I was surprised with whenever we went to France was the amount of, and you'll also see it like in what is it, Maine? I think it's Maine. That they actually have buoys that's set out away from the piers because of the rising and the lowering of the tides, because everything will pretty much sit on the ground if it gets in too close. It's crazy that they actually have piers and docks. So this must either be a lake but it's definitely not France.
By 1994, the order was riven with splits and tensions. The leaders were under suspicion. Some members knew the apparitions were bogus, and others were trying to get their money back from Dimambro.
One day, I really had enough. He threatened me on the phone. The order was really beginning to crumble. The fact that I left was a bombshell. People knew my sincerity. And they knew I'd given everything of myself for 14 years. And it started to seem very suspicious. People asked why.
The buoys tell them water levels. Not really. The buoys are there, so what you'll do is you'll actually pull up to one of those buoys. You'll tie off, and then you can rent like a smaller, like a John boat, and actually, go and pick up more materials, bring it back to your boat and stuff like that. And there's different levels or areas where they have those buoys. So it's not really that those buoys show the water levels. They're more there for, and they're just anchored into the base. So you have a place to anchor without having to drop anchor. We actually tied up to a couple of buoys whenever we were doing like some tours through that area. And that would have been like in like Brittany, that area. We did some tours through both the south of Brittany, north of Brittany, and because the tides are really drastic, they would have those buoys sitting out in a certain area. Sat down, smoke a bowl, got stuck, so AFK isn't entirely happening yet. Just an FYI. Hey, cheers to you. Seriously. If you're enjoying a 952 bowl, then good on you, brother, sister, whatever.
Why I had left. I didn't say anything.
Despite the defections, Dimambro didn't give up. In September 94, a week before the first deaths, 125 members were summoned to a meeting at Avignon in France. Dimambro told them the order would change its structure, and from now on, everyone would report directly to him. We've tracked down one man who was present.
Ooh, they tracked down.
That's why the whole thing doesn't make sense. Well, it doesn't make sense. You might be hiding something. But did anything you heard, this was the 24th of September? Yeah, a week before. Nothing that you heard suggested to you that the order was facing a major drama. No, on the contrary. Rather, it was a...
Oh, you're in Arizona? Awesome. Dude, that's awesome. My sister's actually in Arizona also. I have an older sister that lives in Arizona, and I have a younger sister that still lives in Illinois, and I have a younger brother that's parts unknown, and I have an older brother that lives in Florida. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. That you're in Arizona. I actually have an old, very old acquaintance that worked at a radio station. He's also in Arizona. Arizona's a pretty cool place. Pretty cool place.
Logical evolution, a new start.
Rosemary Jaton
Nice.
found no sign her relatives were preparing to die. Her brother, her sister-in-law, and their teenage children all had plans for the immediate future.
What makes us think of murder is that he had plans. He had obtained his provisional driving license, and in September he planned to take his driving test. And he even had a date for it fixed for later in October.
Oh, and if you guys stick around after the stream, after this portion of it, whenever I kick it off YouTube, I'm going to take it over to Rumble. I'm going to show some pictures of France. They're going to be awesome. You're gonna enjoy these pictures because they're absolutely adorable, absolutely cool. I mean, and I think you'll enjoy it. You'll see it if you go over to Rumble, but it'll only be on Rumble. I won't show them on YouTube. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, and the link is up there. So it's pinned in my comments up at the very, very top. You click on that, that takes you over to Rumble.
None of that suggests that he meant to die.
Others are convinced there was a conspiracy to destroy the order. In Quebec City, the treasurer of the order alleged to us that he and another member had received written, anonymous death threats days before the massacre. Roger Guiger refused to speak on camera, but claimed he had given the Quebec police the threatening notes. The police consistently refused to give us an interview, claiming the investigation is officially closed. Guiger is not the only one to wonder whether the deaths might not have been engineered from the outside.
Have we been told the whole truth? I'm sorry to say, but we still don't know whether the deaths were internal or involve some external agency, and that's why we feel intimidated and we're still afraid.
My big fear is that people developing such conspiracy theories are...
Hey, and you see, dude, you're for Swiss military intelligence. Okay. I would be a little bit skeptical about talking to this kind of person. I mean, I've got one of my wife's friends was in Navy Navy intelligence. And there's a lot of things that I won't even talk to him about. He's straight up spook. I mean, if you're Navy intelligence, yeah, you're straight up a spook. You know things that a lot of people are never able to talk about. So yeah, Swiss military intelligence, I don't know.
Actually just playing the game of Jody Mambro without knowing it. They are playing this game through creating a myth.
But can survivors imagine being so manipulated as to commit suicide?
Killed myself? No. At least, God, I hope not. I asked the question to a friend of mine who knew Juret and Dimambro for 15 years. Is it possible that I could actually have committed suicide? And that person answered, Herman, try to remember what your attitude and your mental dispositions were early 1993. Keep pushing it for another 6 months. And then put yourself in a situation at a certain time, a certain place, where through meditations, through rituals, you are continually engrossed in that and kept going forward and forward and forward. She says, it could have happened. And it might have.
Oof.
It might have, but I don't believe that. That I could actually. Now, what scares me, and probably worse than anything, is when I realize that maybe I could have pulled the trigger, but not on myself. That scares me.
Dude, that
the history of
scares
cults
everybody.
is littered with mass suicides.
Creep.
But there has never been such a series of deaths. 4 separate incidents over a period of 15 months.
How can we now explain what happened in Vercors? I had personally spoken in the days after the events of October 94 with 2 of the people who died in Vercors. And with both of them, I had got the same feeling. They were still quite firm in their beliefs, but they were under deep shock about the way it had happened. None of them could give any explanation to himself or herself, and still less to the policeman, about why a gun was used and so on. They were just able to tell us this is really horrible. And one of the 2 ones I was able to speak with told me, no, for me, no, it's finished. Things the way it has happened, I cannot go on. That's not possible.
A lot of people don't realize how close France and Switzerland are. They're actually pretty damn close. Just an FYI.
If we are to believe the official account, a group of middle-aged civil servants and businessmen and women organized 3 separate collective suicides on 2 continents within 24 hours of each other. And barely a year later, another 16 members, including 2 French policemen, also killed themselves in bizarre circumstances. All the authorities are desperately keen for us to believe this version, but the police investigation was undoubtedly flawed. They claim the leaders of the order were under such great pressure that they decided to kill themselves. But no one can point to one cause or event just before October the 4th, 1994, that could possibly have provoked the tragedy. 2 years later, there are as many unanswered questions surrounding the investigation as around the original events themselves. What really happened to the Solar Temple may always remain a mystery. Did 69 people take their own lives? Or is there a more sinister story still to be told?
Sinister.
Je suis de temps en temps
It's
prisonnier
very
de
hard
rêve,
to live with.
c'est-à-dire que je
Sometimes I'm the
n'arrive
prisoner of
pas
my dreams,
à chasser tout ça. Et alors,
and it's as if I'm jinxed.
c'est comme un envoûtement.
It's hard to get
C'est
over.
très dur à vivre, ça.
I've asked myself many questions. I have read the material, which even suggested links with the mafia and with P2. Now, if there really is some big secret here, which the government feels it's important not to reveal, at least they should tell us that. We can't keep asking ourselves questions forever. We, the families, need to be able to grieve, to do our mourning, and to get on with our lives. That's why we have to know exactly what happened.
So, there ends all of that. But what's going to happen here is I am going to kick YouTube off to the curb, and it's going to go Rumble only. And when it goes Rumble only, I'm going to be sharing some pictures of France because it's beautiful. You may not agree with their politics, and you may call them froggies and all other kinds of stuff, but I will tell you, there is some very beautiful architecture and interesting stories behind every single picture that I'm going to show. And I'm only gonna show it for probably about a half an hour, and then I'm gonna kill the stream altogether. But we're gonna shut down the Rumble, the YouTube side, and then it's just gonna go straight over to Rumble. But if you're over here, make sure you hit the like button on the way out. If you want to check it over on Rumble, feel free, because I'm over there and I'll be showing some of those pictures over on Rumble. And there you go. Cults and the Cycle of Abuse. Thank you. And winning, we will be doing this on Wednesday. So make sure that you check this out, because this is going to be an absolute blast. It will be so much fun. Winning and I, we are brothers in arms in more ways than a lot of people know. we know a lot of the same people and have met a lot of the same people and have dealt with a lot of the same people, and then completely separate lives whatsoever. And he's actually right up the road from me here in Georgia. So we've got interesting takes, and they're not always in agreement, but it will always be entertaining. So make sure that you check out Winning, because it will be a blast. Wednesday's going to be off the rails with Winning. Yeah, Wednesdays with Winning. Here we go, brother. It'll be good. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to join the Order of the Solar Temple, just DM me. Thank you, Levy. That's glorious. That is glorious. But on that note, what we're going to do is we're going to kick this thing straight over to Rumble. Watch the turtles, and whenever the turtles have gone off the screen, you'll know that we're not on YouTube anymore, that we're just going to be exclusively on Rumble. And until then, until Wednesday with winning, I'll see you guys soon. Peace, y'all.
Exótica.